This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. What's up and welcome to the show where I react to your hot takes. A lot of y'all had a lot of great comments this week. I was really happy with the comments from this week. So let's just jump into it, man. We got these videos. I have my boy Engraven on the show. Browns and Ravens could be scary. Always enjoy having Engraven on. Resting says, is it weird that the Ravens scare me the least in the AFC North? I think a lot of the luster has been taken off of the Ravens in the last few years. The Bengals feel like this unstoppable, very, very good team. They're always getting to the championship with AFC championship. They have been able to beat Kansas City consistently. They've been going up. You look at Pittsburgh, and it's the fact that they don't die makes you think highly of them. Even though they're not like the greatest team record-wise, they just refuse to go under 500. That tends to raise your opinion of them. The Baltimore Ravens are the one team in the AFC North that has visually went down. Like, undisputedly, they have gone down. They have regressed significantly. And I'm talking from 2019 to now. It's been a regression, right? The expectations have gotten lower. The win totals have gotten lower. The accomplishments have gotten lower for them. So I think it's natural that the Ravens do not scare anybody at this point because they're so far removed from their peak that they don't have that same fear. Now, will they reload? Will Lamar Jackson get a second win? That's all possible. But as of right now, you can understand why people wouldn't be scared of the Ravens because of the lack of upward trajectory that they've showed. It's the same reason why people aren't really afraid of the Browns, because since 2020, it ain't been going the right direction, right? People are in a wait and see mode with us. So, it's only fair. That's the way it goes in the NFL. This one comes from the boy Engraven. Appreciate you, man. Much love. As always, Q, this was fun. Going to be a fun season. Looking forward to see how the AFC North goes and all the stress and game season brings. Happy to see you, your channel, your community you've built over the years doing well. You're a good dude, man. I appreciate that comment. I really do. When you do a job like this that has so much input, and that input is great. I turn that input into content sometimes, but there's a lot of input. You have to focus on some of the input that can really matter to you. And Engraven, man, he's always been an OG. He's always been one of the stand-up dudes in the community. Always one of the first people to greet new guys into this community. Legitimately one of the best people I know that walk the earth. So I'm always excited to do stuff with Engraven, always excited to have him on. And you have to figure out, this is for anybody trying to figure out their career, figure out what they want to do. You're always going to want to, I don't want to say seek the validation of certain people, but you're always going to want to make sure that no matter what you do, if you decide to do it professionally, you want the respect of your peers. And the respect of Engraven is the respect of my peers. And it's always good to have my guy on here. I've been collabing with him since this channel started, man. So always nice to hear from him, man. Why the Browns could suck again in 2023. I always like to do videos like this to keep us level-headed. My guy ADC says, appreciate you looking at both sides. Right now, I believe we have to prepare for two worlds. One where we're really good, or one where we may be pretty bad. I just don't really want anyone to get their hopes up. This team just has to prove to us that they're serious, and why I want no excuses in the 60-minute effort, if they can at least meet the expectations we know, that, or then I believe we're generally going to be screwed. Here's the thing. People think they can manage getting their hopes up. You can't. You can mask it. You can try to push it down with as much cynicism and pessimism as possible. You can really try. But when that thing happens that you really didn't want to happen, no matter how much you didn't get your hopes up, it's gonna hurt. Right? It's still gonna hurt. It's like if you get tackled, you could put all the pads on in the world, you could put none of the pads. It's gonna hurt. It's not a perfect example, I admit, but it's gonna hurt, right? It's like ripping a Band-Aid off. You can try to take that thing off as slow as possible. This is a better analogy, so act like the other one didn't happen. But it's like ripping a Band-Aid off or an injury bandage off if you ever had to do that. You can tear and try to needle it as close as possible and elongate the pain and try to and tell yourself you're mitigating, or you can just rip that thing off. And for me, my personal approach, I know that I'm not going to be able to temper my expectations. I'm not going to be able to not get my hopes up. I am a naturally optimistic person. I like to think that the best outcomes can happen. And I don't care that because I'm optimistic, sometimes I'm going to get my heart broke. I'm going to get crushed because I'm also a naturally strong person that can handle that. It's not going to hurt me. It's not going to kill me at the end of the day. It might bum me out for a little while, but I'll be straight. And sometimes we are so afraid of the potential of getting hurt that we just put ourselves in more pain trying to avoid the quick little pain. Like ripping off that Band-Aid, you rip it off, and then you're fine 2 seconds later. But if you try to elongate it, it hurts for like 20 minutes. You scar yourself, you give yourself a rash. It don't make no sense to do it that way. That's all I'm saying. I try to make sure that we know the consequences of the season. Hey, look, it could go wrong. It could go right. And I'm fine with getting my hopes up knowing that it could go wrong. Because what is excitement if there is no risk of it going wrong? That's part of the joy. When your team wins and you feel that joy and excitement, it's because you thought they could lose. It is not a joyful experience if you're an Ohio State fan and they stomp Kennesaw State 85-2. That's not joyful. At no point did you think Ohio State wasn't. You end up having to get your joy from things that aren't the scoreboard. You got to be like, well, I didn't think that this rookie or this freshman would show up and get 200 yards. That's what you get the joy from. It's not necessarily you're getting the joy from the victory, because the victory was never in question. But if Ohio State was down 14 to Michigan, and then you come back in the fourth quarter and you beat them in overtime, oh, that victory tastes sweet because it was very much in question. The risk of the pain of failure makes success so much sweeter. We can't avoid it. There's no avoiding it. Once people understand that, they will enjoy what they're watching so much more. But that's core to sports fandom. I think so many people try to protect themselves from pain. You can't. If you wanted to protect yourself from pain, you wouldn't watch football. Because watching football as a fan, like this, having this much investment over a thing you have no control over, that's not a pain adverse activity. You can watch a TV show if you want to avoid pain. But if you're here watching football, and if you're watching me and you're watching football, I'm telling you right now, you're not doing yourself any service by trying to hold off on any of this pain. Not saying that's what Parker was doing, because I don't think that's what Parker was doing. Let me be very clear on that. But some fans do that. They try to avoid pain as much as possible. But it's like, hey, man, sometimes the Band-Aid got to flow. Sometimes you just got to bleed. Sometimes it just hurt, and you got to be hurt for a little bit. But then you're going to be all right. Sometimes the baby got to cry. and then the baby gonna stop crying and the baby gonna be all right. It happens. Somebody said this to me, and it's been something that's been real helpful. A lot of the times we think of emotions as this thing that we have to latch on to. But in reality, emotions are like standing on the side of the highway and watching cars pass. You're going to feel it one moment and it's going to be gone the next. And that's the beauty of it. You just got to be willing to accept that ride and ride on the ride of your emotions, and you'll be much happier. In my opinion. I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to tell y'all some medical shit. If you interpreted that, let me be very clear here too. If you interpreted anything I said as medical advice, please don't, because it was not meant as that. It's just general, not mental health stuff, but just like general, vibe shit. So let me be very clear on that. I don't want anybody thinking that I was giving mental health advice, because I'm not qualified for that. G.E. Warnock says, fair and balanced content, Quincy Staple. Thanks for all the stuff you do to learn, prop us up, fire us up, get us back down to earth. Yeah, I like when I started doing this stuff, it's because I wanted sports talk to be more reflective of what I wanted to hear, which is a fair study of football from somebody who likes the Browns. That's what I try to provide. I try to make sure that I'm not ignoring obvious negatives, that I'm not avoiding uncomfortable truths about the team that I care about. I want to talk about football. I want to talk about the Browns. This is what I try to do every day on this channel. Next video is the Browns sleeping on the Steelers. This comment says, it would be silly to sleep on the Steelers even when they have down years. They have a winning record. As much as I despise them, I have a ton of respect for them. Yeah, I think that's valid. I think the Steelers are a hard team to sleep on. This video I had Tyvis on. Tyvis always a great guest. Browns defense has insane potential. Basher says, I noticed a fatal weakness throughout the preseason with our defense. The line is very aggressive. Great weakness in screen, sweep, run plays. Also, they don't maintain, they're not going to maintain contain. They can get beat running the ball, but again, you want the linebackers to make up for that. We'll see. We'll see if that becomes a big problem, but those are potential issues with how they run the defense. Every defense has flaws. It's about your skilled players, well, not skilled players, but your players' skilled ability to be able to avoid those flaws in some ways, right? That's what separates the good defenses from the great defenses, because again, you can run the same defense the Legion of Boom had. But what made the Legion of Boom special was that the stuff that was real easy to get in a cover 3 scheme for most teams against the Legion of Boom, they were so talented that they shut that shit down too. Browns will win the AFC North in 2023. This comment says, avid watcher, but I don't normally comment on videos. Stopping by to say I love the Majora's Mask style countdown. Go Browns. Hey, man. I just had to fit my nerd stuff in there somewhere. I had to fit my nerd stuff in there somewhere, and I'm glad somebody else saw that I fit my nerd stuff in there. So I appreciate y'all if you noticed that. Brown's secret weapons. DPJ's chemistry with Watson is way too underrated in my opinion. Dude's always first on the field to rush to pick him up anytime he gets tackled. I think DPJ could challenge Amari for the most receptions on the team, or put up a serious season as a number 2 and be up there with the top 32 receivers. He's not as big as D-Hop or Njoku, but he reaches out over DB's heads. There's going to be a market on this team for somebody who could be a reliable third down option. I think DPJ is a good candidate to be one of the move the chain guys, right? I think his ideal future is Willie Snead plus, right? Like that's ideally what you want to get. Just a really reliable third down, move the chains type wide receiver. He's going to get a couple deep balls every once in a while. That'd be great. But his main purpose is that short intermediate stuff that he's going to be really good. Think Juju Smith-Schuster when he was on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like that's the lane you want Donovan Peoples-Jones to kind of be in. And if he is, that's going to be a great lane for him to maintain. Sammy Football says, what are your thoughts on DJ Reader playing in this game? I personally think his presence is being overlooked. overlooked. He's only played against the Browns one out of the last 4 or so times. DJ Reader is a issue. When the Browns played the Bengals, that was probably the biggest issue that they had. Nick Chubb, I don't believe he had a great game because DJ Reader was blowing it up. And if DJ Reader's allowed to blow things up, and again, I worry about running out the gun against elite defensive tackles because those are the guys who can blow up these gun runs. So yeah, it's going to be something. You know, the guys in the interior are going to have their hands full. DJ Reader's one of the best. Joe Harrelson says, I think that Zadarius Smith can end up with more sacks than Garrett, or they could both be near 20 sacks. I'm not saying that Zadarius is better than Miles, but sacks are fickle that way. I mean, I'll agree with you. Sacks are kind of fickle that way, but both near 20 is insane. That would be the greatest edge rush tandem of all time. If they got, like, I could see a world where Miles gets 18 and Zadarius gets 14. But if Myles Garrett is healthy, I think Myles Garrett will end up with more because since sacks are kind of fickle, sacks are usually going to just trickle down to the most athletic guy on the defensive line, and that's going to be Myles Garrett. This next comment comes from my bold prediction video from week 1. This first comment is from Gabriel, a content writer, who says, bold prediction, Watson, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interception. Browns defense, 5 sacks. Joe Burrow, 300 yards, but 2 turnovers. Nick Chubb, 120 on the ground. Browns win this 28-20. I would say that's a fair prediction. If it panned out that way, I wouldn't be too surprised. Cocaine Bear says, my biggest worry about this game is that the Bengals might just lean on the run since Joe Burrow has been hurt. Our run and stopping the run was the Browns' biggest weakness last year. The game will be a big test somewhere to see where the defense is at. Yeah. I mean, I'm not as concerned because the personnel on the defensive line has changed so much, but yeah, it will be a test to see what this new defensive line can do against the run. And I expect them to be able to stop a run threat like Joe Mixon, who's not really an elite run threat. So we'll see what happens here. But thank you guys for watching. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night.